Fantastic. Right. So we've started. Good morning and welcome to this morning's session. This is about the environment, about COP26. So this is part of the Bucks Skills Show. My name's Max. I'm from Pathway CTM. I'm just hosting the session this morning, so I'm just making sure everything's going smoothly. I can see that we've already found the chat box, which is fantastic. We're seeing messages coming through that, which is brilliant. If you have got questions as we go along, let us know what your questions are. Well, we've got a nice panel of people to meet this morning. We've got lots of great information. I'm not going to talk too much about what it is because I'm not the expert on the area. I'm just here to introduce. Like I said, I'm Max. I'm from Pathway CTM. We're going to be speaking to lots of people. If you go away from this session today and you think, this is an amazing session, loads of great information, great resources, remember that we are recording this and this is going to go onto the Bucks Skills Hub as well. Use it. Let other people know about this recording. Share it far and wide. Let them know about it because the information you're about to hear is some great information. Let's get going. Let's meet our panelists. The first one I want to introduce is Dan. Good morning, Dan. I know you've got a little bit of an introduction for us as well, and then you're going to tell us who you are and what you do. So let's go for it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Max. And yeah, good morning to everyone out there in Buckinghamshire, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, can I say we are very, very lucky. We feel privileged that you are giving us the time to talk to you. We know your time is precious, so we really are grateful to share kind of the important messages around the environment and the future position of the planet. It really is great, and we've seen throughout COP26 that actually young people are kind of a key driver here, probably one of the most essential drivers. I mean, Greta Thunberg has done so much in this space, and the ripple effect that one person can have, let alone a child, is just massive. It really cannot be understated. So yeah, businesses have faced a real wake-up call in the last 24 months. We've always known the environment is an issue, but it was always an issue for another day. Unfortunately, it seems that is catching up with us now, and businesses are quickly realizing that they need to make changes and they really need to make them soon. The biggest problem there is they don't have that skill set to enact them changes, and that's really where you guys and girls come in. It sounds cliche, but it really is a reality that you are part of history, and this really will be a fundamental time for the planet. The next 20 to 30 years, which so happens to be your exact working life, is when all of this activity is really going to happen, and it will be make or break. So I wouldn't say we failed on our part, but we absolutely need the help of your generation that will come up, and it will be the case, again, sounds cliche, but for generations to come, they will talk about us, and they will either talk about the good we did and the fact that we effectively saved the world without sounding too pretentious, or it will be, crikey, didn't they make a mess of that, which is certainly not what we want. So thank you very much. We've got some great people here today who are going to be speaking with you. So I'll introduce myself first. I'm Dan Cope, the Programme Manager of Low Carbon Workspaces. So we are a £13 million project. It's public funded money that we give to businesses to help them reduce their footprints, their carbon footprints. So this could be anything like changing from old bulbs to LED lights. It could be installing solar, anything really that can help reduce that carbon footprint, and we can provide that business with a grant to help them with those costs. So that's me, Max, and I'm happy to be here.
That's fantastic, and thank you for that introduction as well. So we've met one of the panelists already. Let's meet the next one. So good morning, Kieran. Kieran from Sindall. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you guys do.
Yeah, good morning. So thank you very much for having us. So yeah, my name's Kieran Welsh. I am the Senior Health and Safety Advisor for Sindall Northern Home Counties business. So we work predominantly for Beds, Herts and Bucks. So we're building several schools at the moment in Buckingham. So for those of you who don't know, Sindall, we're a large construction company. We turn over circa 2.7 billion a year. The division I work for is the construction division, and we're turning over about sort of 800 million at the moment a year for that division. So
that's a lot of money, 800 million.
Yeah, and obviously, sorry.
Go for it.
No, I was just going to say, so obviously sustainability comes with my role as part of the health and safety team, but obviously it's something I'm really passionate about. I've got two young children who are sort of really into it as well. I get told off if I take home like a plastic bottle, and so yeah, it's something we're really pushing as a business and also sort of on personal life as well.
Fantastic. That's really good. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Okay, let's meet Adam. Adam from Healthtec.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam Poland and I run the Healthtec Centre in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire. So we are here representing the NHS because we are an NHS careers centre. So I've got lots of stuff to talk to you about today about the NHS, how we're helping the environment and also our impact on the environment. So I look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Next person we've got is Rebecca. Good morning, Rebecca. Rebecca from Feedback.
Indeed. Thank you. So I work for Feedback Global, which is a national campaigning organisation. And what we do, we have different teams that spread out to look at different industries connected to food and the food sector. So in Buckinghamshire, we do a lot around food citizenship and green futures, but nationally, we look at a whole range of things from meat industries to the banks that farm, that fund farms, through to salmon and a whole range of things around food waste. So yeah, really great to be here. Thank you.
Interesting. That's really good. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And then we've got Dave from Esri. Are you with us, Dave? Just unmute yourself, by the way. There you go. No, you need to unmute yourself again. I tell you what, Dave, are you there? Dave, I tell you what, I'm going to give you a minute just to catch up, because we can't hear you.
Am I here?
I'll give you a minute, and then I'm going to move on to Danny first, and then we'll come back to you if that's okay. So I've got Danny from Exclusive.
Hi everyone, I am Danny. I run Exclusive Collection. So we're a hotel group. We have 6 hotels, but we also have 2 spas, a pub, a cookery school and a golf course. And we are the first UK hotel group to be B Corp accredited, which we just got last week. So very excited.
Fantastic. B Corp accredited. I hasten to jump ahead, but what does that actually mean to be B Corp accredited?
So it's businesses with a purpose, people, planet, profit.
Okay, interesting. I suppose we'll find out more about that. Right, fantastic. Dave, should we give you a try again? Let's go back to you. Dave from Esri.
Right. Hopefully I've unmuted myself.
You have unmuted yourself now.
Max is still looking confused, so I don't know if he has. Yes, I have. Excellent. Fab. Brilliant. So my name is Dave. I work at Esri UK. We're a software company. So we deal with a software and a clear technology that lets our customers ask and answer questions and solve problems that involve the question where. So the kind of simplest example that we always use is so where should I put a new supermarket? Because I want my supermarket to be accessible enough for people to get there. I want it to be not too close to other supermarkets because I don't want the competition. And maybe I also need to think about, well, what sort of stuff do I sell in that supermarket based on the things that people buy who live in that area? So as a company who kind of make and sell software to help our customers sort of solve those kinds of spatial problems. And we are based in Aylesbury, so kind of right in your area.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Dave. We got there. Okay, so let's go and have a look at some of the questions that we've got. You can see that this is a very we've got quite a few different businesses here represented in a few different industries. And the reason why is because all of these different industries are having an effect on the impact and the environment in a different way. They're also all based in Bucks too. So this is really relevant to to the area that you guys are in. Dan, let's start with you, low carbon. What kind of things are your organization doing to work to reduce its environmental impact? I know that your company does a lot to help other people reduce its environmental impact, but what does your company do?
No, thank you very much, Max. It's a good question. So for those who don't know, we as a programme sit under BBF, so that's Buckinghamshire Business First. You may have seen that many businesses are members, free members, and we really help our business members to kind of steer through whatever issues, whatever problems they're having at the time with their business. And of course, the environment has really become an important part of that. But one thing that we've recognised is that we really need to lead by example. And that's something that's important for all of us, I think, both business in professional work, but also in our personal life. If we practice what we preach, if we demonstrate that, it's a lot easier for people to come on that journey with us. It's very easy for us to say, you should do this, you should do that. And we've seen an awful lot of that from the people at the podiums at COP26. And it's very much, we really need to practice what we preach. So for us as a company, we've made sure we've committed to the climate pledge to be net zero by 2050. We work out our carbon footprint each year, and importantly, we offset that footprint each year.
Interesting. Okay, so there are things that you guys are doing to reduce that environmental impact. Students as well, when you listen to this and think about it, listen to what is being done and the efforts that are being put in. It's also for your generation to judge whether it's enough or more needs to be done. I think we can always maybe say that there's always more to be done, but we hope that we'll show you that a good start has been made. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that, Dan. Kieran, Morgan Sindall, now you're in construction, and I think you said that you're building a lot of schools within the area. But what do you guys do to reduce your environmental impact?
Yeah, so obviously part of being a responsible business, and we're trying to lead the way within the construction business, we launched our decarbonising community strategy back in March 21. So we believe that sort of complying with legislation isn't enough. We want to take it further than that. And if we're going to save the planet, it needs to be done now. So there's sort of 6 key focus areas that I'll just cover quickly around the strategy. So it's our customers. So for the likes of the Department for Education, who we're building schools for, we work with them, look at maybe more sustainable measures, maybe start looking at timber opposed to standard concrete builds. So the assets that we deliver, so the buildings that we deliver, we're focusing around the sustainability and environment impacts they have. So for example, I'm at Glebe School at the moment in Milton Keynes. This school will have no gas, so there'll be no fossil fuel burnt in this school. All the Bunsen burners will be run off electric, for example. So yeah, with our colleagues as well. So as a business, everyone within the business has to make a carbon pledge. So we do, whether that's with an office worker who's going to try to use less paper, or a designer that's going to try and influence the decision on a school or a building or a design for that. So, and our supply chain as well. So we're working with our supply chain. So we're looking at things like carbon neutral hoarding. So we're not putting up standard timber hoarding, so it's plastic and we can reuse it. We're looking at electronic plant, and even sort of the older plant, we're looking at running it off HVO fuel, which is hydrated vegetable oil. So again, that's fossil fuel free. So we're not burning diesel, we're not burning petrol. Places where we work, so that's the communities. So we're looking to increase biodiversity in the community. We don't want to be negative, we want to be positive. Education, which obviously why it comes to sessions like this. We've also got an education centre on a couple of our sites, which is free for colleges and universities to use. And transparency, that's one of our key things. So we like being open and honest about our waste, our figures, and where we're hoping to go. So yeah, hopefully with all of that, we'll be carbon neutral by 2030, but our real aim is to have a positive impact on the environment by that point, not be negative. So yeah, so one key example of that is we're doing a woodland, so we're going to plant 270,000 trees throughout for this to help offset.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of good work. Okay, so we're starting to see more and more things that are being done. Students as well, what I want you to think about is listen to what Kieran said there. It's not just about Morgan Sindall, but they're working with their supply chain as well. So start to realize that a lot of big companies aren't just looking at themselves, but also about the effect that they can have and how they can bring other people along on that journey too. Fantastic. Brilliant for that. Okay, Adam from Healthtec. What about you guys?
Right, guys. Hiya. So I think the NHS has taken an approach here where we need to know where we are currently, so we know what we need to do to hit carbon neutral. Okay, so full disclosure, NHS, we are quite a big carbon producer. This is not new news. I mean, it's out there in the public domain. So, and I've got stats written down everywhere. So I'm looking down, guys, I'm looking at my stats because I don't want to get them wrong. Okay, but currently the NHS accounts for 27% of all carbon emissions in the public sector. Just in the public sector. But in 2020, we accounted for 4%. And let's be fair, 2020 was quite an unusual year, but it accounted for 4% of entire England's carbon sort of emissions. Now, drilling down to Buckinghamshire, in 2019, we emitted, or our trust generated, just under 41,000 tonnes of CO2, okay, which is used for energy usage, medical devices, gases and travel. So it's really, really important for us to understand where we were first before we could then plan to move on. because otherwise we don't know what our targets are and what we're aiming for. So our target, NHS nationally, and as Buckinghamshire Healthcare Trust announced this week, is to go carbon neutral, or even better, by 2040. That is the plan. There are lots of ways of doing this. We have, and those of you who know the NHS, we have quite an aging infrastructure. Lots of our hospitals are very old. Lots of the buildings we use are very old, and transport fleet is quite antiquated. So a lot of stuff is being done in the new buildings. So obviously, as Kieran's been speaking with Morgan Sindall, when new buildings are commissioned, they are net zero as of 2022 and even exceeding that specification. Renovations of old buildings are taking place across the whole infrastructure, both in Buckinghamshire and nationally, to try and bring them up to standard. So a lot of those buildings were built in the 50s or 60s. So there has been little regard to that. Clever things that we can do are in terms of our building around the sites we currently have. So for example, we're looking quite a lot at tree canopies. So during longer, hotter summers, which we're going to be getting, or even winters or rainier, more precipitation, tree canopies are really good because they provide natural shelter and shade. So including use of that in our walkways and areas around it, so we don't have to worry about cooling bills or heating bills because we're sheltered. So that's one way we're doing it. And the most exciting one we've got in a minute is that as of, what year are we in? As of 2022, we are doing our first trials of electric ambulances, which are coming online next year to be trialled, with the aspiration that the whole NHS fleet will be electric by 2032. So that's where we are now. And I'll go later on, I'll talk about how sustainability challenges, but that's where we are now. And that's what we're trying to do. We've got those targets of 2040 carbon neutral. We know where we are now. We know what we need to do to get there. So we've got our steps laid out.
Fantastic. That sounds like some great work, and I'm excited to hear about those electric ambulances as well. A good point put in the chat box, guys. If you have got any questions, any students from any of the classrooms anywhere, we know that we've got over 120 logged in this morning watching. So if you've got questions, pop them in the chat box. Kieran from Morgan Sindall, just a little challenge for you before we come back to you on the next question. Somebody has asked and said they'd be curious to see what an electric Bunsen burner looks like. So if you are able to get your hands on one or think about how to describe it when we get back to you, then let us know. But that's your challenge and you can think about that. So let's hear from Rebecca. What about your company? What's your organization doing?
Okay, so we're actually quite a small charity, and we actually are spread out across the country. So most of us were actually home working before home working was a bit of a thing, you know, through COVID. So we're all in our own environments, and we're all encouraged to then reflect the sustainability policy that we've got for feedback. So we don't just go around telling everyone to eat no meat and turn vegan. You know, it's quite a widespread thing. So everything from actually how we live ourselves to what we talk about with other people. So everything from our own food waste, you know, we've probably all got composts in our own gardens, because we encourage people to look at actually how we can reduce our own food waste. And very much that people bring in sort of lunches where people bring in different dishes, you know, and we really do sort of try and live as much as we sort of talk about with food. And within our office, and there is an office base in London. I don't get to go there very often, even though I'm only in Buckinghamshire. But we do try and link up a lot really across Zoom and Teams. And that's something that obviously everyone has adapted to, and it has actually really brought people that work in different areas together without the need of travelling, you know, without the need of sort of, are you going to fly somewhere? Are you going to catch the train? You know, everyone can communicate within their own environments, which is really good. So as an organisation, I guess we're quite lucky in the fact that we are small, but we do work from home, and it does mean that we do have to think about our own behaviours because of that fact as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Rebecca. Brilliant. Okay, Dave from Esri. What about your organisation?
Yeah, so we have like kind of other people have said so far, we've got a carbon reduction plan in place, which is kind of our strategy and our plan for what we're going to do over the next sort of 10, 20 years as we aim towards getting carbon neutral. So it's kind of looking at, well, how do we power our office buildings? How do we travel? Lots of our carbon comes from colleagues sort of traveling around the country, going to meet our customers and working with our customers in their setting. So a lot of what we do is helping customers solve their problems with the technology, and it's always easiest to do that alongside them with them. So there's quite a lot of travel for some of my colleagues, and then kind of offsetting. So how do we kind of capture some of that carbon that we are inevitably releasing back into woodlands and trees, so tree planting and things like that. And then we're kind of doing other things that are perhaps less about our impact, but more about helping our customers reduce their impact. So we're using our technology to kind of make resources that help teachers and schools, so help you guys teach and learn about the impacts of climate change and how climate change is going to affect us in the UK. So we're using kind of tools like that to support public engagement and technology and raise awareness generally. And we're helping all of our customers do their business in a more sustainable way. So that might be a transport company who are looking at how do they create the best sustainable urban transport system that they can, or how do we manage the cycle hire docks in London, so you know where is there a space to put your cycle, or where's the bike to pick one up that's near to you. Similar things with kind of car charging points. And working with lots of charities, people like Sustrans, who are doing lots of great work on that, sustainable travel, kind of piece, the Rivers Trust, who are, you might have seen lots of maps around about how much sewage goes into our rivers over the last few weeks. So we're working with lots of organisations like that to help them make either evidence-based decisions about how they're working, or to create evidence and push evidence out that helps create change elsewhere. So kind of lobbying for change, like the Rivers Trust example.
Perfect. That sounds good. Thank you very much for that, Dave. Okay, Danny from Exclusive.
So this is a huge subject. Maybe I'll just talk about food and drink. There's so much carbon in the food and drink choices that people make. So as a business, we have, where possible, we've got kitchen gardens, so we grow our own. We go hyper local. So for example, I'm actually at a hotel in Hampshire at the moment. We work with Hampshire Fair. We have 50 suppliers that are within a 20-mile radius, and we also talk to those suppliers. So if you take, for example, bacon that people have at breakfast, if you buy a nationally recognized brand of bacon, it's probably, the animals probably come from Denmark, been driven to London, been then driven up to Kerry Foods packaging. It's got a journey of 800 miles. It's in plastic packaging. So we work with hyper local suppliers, and not just cut down the food miles, but also work out how we can use a whole animal in dishes. We also look at product mix, so we have more vegan, more vegetarian outlets and options. So people have, there's a new food thing called climatarian, so people making conscious choices about what they eat and the impact that has on the environment. And I'd also say that's very applicable to drink as well. We have English sparkling wine. We sell 20,000 bottles of English sparkling wine, which is now more than champagne, but the miles of transportation that takes is far less. We're planting our own vineyard at one of our properties in Sussex. So just a huge amount of effort. And then at the very end of the process, we partner with Oleo, which is a food waste partner, how we compost everything. Some of our coffee grinds go in the kitchen gardens to stop the slugs. We're obviously organic in terms of within the kitchen gardens, not using pesticides. I better stop there because I could go on for hours.
Well, it's great that you could go on for hours because that's brilliant. I mean, yes, this session could probably last 2-3 hours with all the information. But actually, I've got a question that's coming from a student, and it could be good for you guys to answer this, Danny, at exclusive, because of the work that your hotel does, or your chains do, and all of this kind of stuff. But what do you do to protect marine life? Does this help protect marine life? And that's come from a Year 9 student.
So the obvious one is no single-use plastics and getting rid of that. But on top of that, it goes back to education around where your food comes from, where it's sourced. So just to give you one example, we don't serve prawn cocktails anymore because that's particularly bad for the environment. So we substitute that with locally crayfish from an English farm that we know where it's come from. Once again, it's really, really complex, but the bottom line is using a fisherman who we know where they've come from. We've taken things like tuna off the menus. So it's back to that real micro detail of what I would say is it's really important to educate yourself in all of these subjects. And as soon as you start educating yourself, you can make more informed choices. And when you're talking about oceans, guys, watch Seaspiracy on Netflix. Okay, it will change your eating habits forever. And I have to say, that's going from someone who used to love a tuna sandwich. It's gone.
Interesting you say that because I haven't watched Seaspiracy yet. And a good chat, actually. If you can watch it and you have got Netflix, watch Seaspiracy. I haven't watched it yet because I gave up meat last year. I no longer eat meat, but fish is the one last thing I hold on to. But that will change in the future. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. I'm conscious of time. We've got roughly about 8 minutes left, and we've got some great questions. One of these questions, I think, Adam at Healthtec, I think because you were mentioning about moving to electric ambulances. Okay, somebody has asked, are you conscious about moving to all electric vehicles and then that putting more pressure on coal burning power stations in the UK? How far has your thinking gone? Be honest, have you thought about that as well? Has that figured in the equation?
Okay, I'll be honest, I'm far too far down the food chain to be involved in that decision. But there is an issue here to do with infrastructure nationally. And so, for example, in a different life, I also work on this in a different area of my professional life. And I do know that move to electric vehicles is going to cause issues with coal burning power stations, obviously, and obviously with the new one going up in Cumbria, which isn't great, potentially going up in Cumbria. So then we have to look at alternatives how we power motorised vehicles. Ideally, everyone would use bicycles and other forms of transport to get around, but it's not feasible, particularly when you have a supply chain like we do, which is nationwide. I mean, if we've got an organ in the back of a bike going from one hospital to another, we need to make sure it gets there. So we need to make sure we have infrastructure around that right now. So in a minute, the infrastructure is not there on a national strategic scale to support electric vehicles, but we're hoping government and plans coming from COP26 will make sure that that comes through the pipeline. Where I live right now, all our street lights have been retrofitted to brand new LED 3D printed street lights, which can plug in your electric car chargers onto. But again, we've got the issue of using coal power there. So as a nation, we need to move to, controversially, maybe nuclear or renewable.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting to hear. And guys and girls, what I want you to realize is that see the common thread that is going through this. And we've heard from these companies and the work that they are doing. They are looking to the future and the new things that they are building and how they can improve those and make those better. But then they also have the challenge of looking at the old building, old stock, and what they can do to those things to change them and make those more environmentally friendly as well. Because that's still a challenge, as you guys know, with the questions we've got coming through. Now, Kieran from Morgan Sindall, big organization, working on lots of projects. You said you're building lots of schools. I've actually got a question here. When you look at the future and the environmental changes that your company has had to make, has that brought about new jobs in the sector? Will it change the jobs in your sector? And what does that look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so obviously, like everyone has an effect on the environment and sustainability as well. So since I've been in construction 15 years, environment sustainability was kind of a bolt-on role to maybe many other roles, project manager, that kind of thing. But now large companies like ourselves, we have dedicated sustainability environmental teams, we have ecologists, we have carbon managers. And obviously as the industry develops into better ways of building, so they're looking at robots to build like sort of small houses and stuff, but we're looking at more of off-site manufacturing. So we build the product off-site and then literally you sort of come to site and we build it together as one piece. So I think the roles of especially like a site manager will change rapidly, because we'll just be putting the building together on site rather than building it in traditional methods. And obviously that has a massive improvement on sustainability environment, because it's less carbon and less waste, etc.
Brilliant. Okay, that's good to hear. And again, students, if you're thinking about your future as well, and you are passionate about the environment, or you want to see what jobs can have an effect on changing the environment and making it better, have a look at those new jobs that are available. One of those there is carbon manager. You know, that's an interesting role that probably never existed before, but a lot of environmentalists, sustainability managers as well. So there are opportunities, and they will be opening up more and more, because that's where the industry's having to move to, because we need to do it as a nation and as a world. I've got a question for Dan Cope. Now, there's a couple of interesting questions. Somebody has asked, where is it now?
I can blast them.
It's about boiling a kettle. So
that's it. Don't worry, I can blast them.
One?
I just quickly want to just clarify a point though. Only 2% now of our energy creation is through burning coal, and that's reducing. We only have 3 sites left in the UK, coal sites. So absolutely, electric vehicles are the way forward. It's very market driven, and we've seen since COVID that the government can move at breakneck speeds, as can industry. So if we get to electric vehicles and we have a shortfall of electric, we'll absolutely onboard much more solar at a real fast pace. So just want to make that shout out for electric vehicles. As for whether to use your electric or gas to boil your kettle, electric is definitely the way forward. Every year, electric becomes greener. So boiling the kettle now is far more efficient than boiling it 5 years ago, because that energy profile changes year on year, and each year takes on more renewables, much like I've just said, and coal will shrink and shrink and shrink. So absolutely always go for electric. Electric is more expensive, so for the electric ovens, that is going to be problematic. We really need to see the government there to assist with perhaps levies on energy rates, certainly for domestic households. We've seen rates go up and up, so that's really going to put more pressure on them. Yeah, I think that's all 3 of them. I just want to shout out for the jobs. By 2030, there's going to be an extra 900,000 jobs minimum, and it's recently been reported that could be up to 2 million new green jobs. So your generation can absolutely take advantage of this, and the pay for those jobs is going up and up because they are more in demand. It's not just for people who sit behind an office desk like me. If you're very hands-on, if you're very practical, there's so many green jobs there. Only 5% of mechanics can work on electric vehicles. So you could be the other 95%.
That's some amazing information there. So when we're looking at, so let's be clear, electric ovens are better than gas ovens. And then, so then somebody has got another question as well. And I'm conscious we got about a minute and a half left. What could we do to start off small in school to help?
Who's that one for?
That'll be for you, Dan, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the really great thing about the environment. The ripple effect you can have is massive. It really is. If that's you telling your parents that they're doing the recycling wrong, it has an impact. That will carry on to their extended life, and when they're at work and they're sorting the recycling, they'll think, actually, you know, my child told me off for this. So there's an awful lot you can do as children. And I mean, as I said, look at the protests we've seen from kids. A lot of this visibility that we're seeing on the news is all because of kids. So do not feel that you are powerless because you are young, because absolutely not. You can judge us innocently. You absolutely can do that. Point the finger at us, tell us where we are going wrong. You absolutely are right to do that, because it is your planet too. There's just because you're children doesn't mean we have any seniority there or any better ideas, because we can see with what's going on that actually we're not doing a great job.
Interesting. That's lots of good information. Also, I did make a mistake. We do finish at 9:20 today, not 9:15. So we have a few more minutes. I apologize for that. Again, what I want to reiterate is what we're hearing here is how big companies and small companies in all different industries are working to change the way that they work, to use methods differently to be better for the environment, and they're moving as fast as they can according to the capabilities that they have. But there are also jobs that are going to be available within all of these industries and industries across the whole UK that is going to move to a more environmentally friendly economy and world that we live in. So it's about looking at young people, looking at what options are available, what can you go and study, what can you have an effect in if this is something that you are passionate about, because all of these companies that we are hearing from are going to need to keep making changes, but we can only make the changes if we have the resources and the intelligence and the knowledge. And maybe that knowledge has never existed really before. Okay, so we need to think about those things. So also, I've actually got a question for Rebecca from Feedback. Now, your organization, what kind of sustainability challenges does your organization face when you think about it and how you are? Because you mentioned earlier about your organization and working from home, but what kind of challenges do you face?
I guess we're quite lucky in the sense that we do have a lot of information at our fingertips. You know, we do a lot of research, we do a lot of work across different countries, really to hammer down into different supply chains, as we've heard from Danny, that, you know, a lot of the food doesn't come from the UK that we eat. So it's very much about sort of highlighting that. And we do have information that is out there, it's just accessing it, and it's talking to people and it's making those links. And definitely within Buckinghamshire, it's really good. We've got the new Bucks Food Partnership, which allows different people within the food sectors to come and connect together. So we can all have an impact on each other. And I guess what we do as an organisation, we do a lot of work with young people around sort of food waste, but we're also looking at internships within Green Jobs. So for us, and I guess what we do is passing that messaging on and making sure that people are aware of their options and their choices. So for us as an organisation, when it comes to the things that we do, it's very much about unearthing a lot of the processes and problems that are within the food sector and sharing that with other people.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Rebecca. Julia, you've got your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Max. It was not a question. It's just I wanted to mention before the call ends, all of these amazing panelists that we've had with us today are all represented on the Bucks Skills Show webpage. So if you want to know more about any of the people here, the industries and the companies that they represent, the possible vacancies and job opportunities and pathways in, as well as activities to undertake. Some of these companies have supplied activities for you to get stuck into as well, with prizes and whatnot. Please make sure you have a look. I'm going to post the link now for you guys to be able to access that anytime, but please do have a look. You will be surprised, I think, to see just what information is there.
That's brilliant. That's a good shout out, because it is a great hub. There is lots of fantastic information on there, and we've been lucky enough to be to have everybody represented here and really give great information and be honest as well about what they're doing and what else they can do. So go and look at them. Go and look at their profiles. Go and see. Maybe you want to join one of these organisations in the future and help bring that forward. With that, I know it's 9:19, but we have got another couple of questions. I'm not really sure who's going to answer them, but if we think about COP26, it's been a top-down approach. Has it actually been flawed? Is it better to do a bottom-up approach? And I would automatically assume Dan is going to know the information to that. But Adam has got his hand up.
Yeah, if I'm okay jumping in there.
Yeah, of course.
Yes and no. Okay, we need to have the focus internationally, and it does draw that focus in, and it then creates political impetus to drive massive organisations, for example, the NHS, who are directed by the government, but then also it needs to come from the bottom up by this grassroots movement, as we talk about Greta Thunberg and a whole movement going on here, to push it up. So it should meet somewhere in the middle, but it creates political momentum to get larger organisations like ourselves on track, on task, and having these targets set. So yes and no. It'd be better if people didn't use private jets to get there as well. Completely agree on that. But the idea behind it is quite a noble one, and it should work from both directions, meeting in the middle.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And then I suppose one last question. What skills will young new employees need to prepare for their futures in this space? I am conscious that it's 9:21, but let's go for it. Go for it. Go on, Adam.
Sorry, it's me again. Sorry. Ideally, what we need is, I think Daniel spoke about this, is engineers and mechanics to work on electric vehicles because we're doing our whole fleet. I think there's currently about 50,000 vacancies on people who can work on electric vehicles. So we need that sort of stuff. Now, on top of that, we need people who can innovate and come to us with fresh ideas. So for example, one stat I really want to get out there, if someone's on kidney dialysis, 1 year's worth of kidney dialysis is the equivalent of 7 return flights to JFK. We need to find a way to decarbonize that, and we need some fresh ideas, fresh impetus to push us in to find new solutions to these things. Anyone who uses an aspirin inhaler, we need to find lower carbon alternatives of them. Okay, there's thousands of those out there. Anesthetic gases, we need to look at alternatives. So people got innovation, interest, new thinking to old ways of doing stuff is what we are after.
Fantastic. And Rebecca, I see you've got your hand up as well. I know it's 9:22 and we're supposed to finish at 9:20, but last question, let's get this one out because I can still see plenty of classrooms logged on.
I'd definitely say that, you know, the farming and agriculture sector and horticulture sector is growing. You know, people are getting into growing, but also as a sector, and because of Brexit and COVID and a whole range of other sort of issues that we've experienced recently, has meant that we need to, as a country and as a county, you know, have a look at green jobs and get people outside, you know, get people into sort of more manual jobs, but also make sure they get paid properly. So there's a whole sort of economy sector to have a look at as well, but definitely green jobs from education, cooking, a whole range of things that young people can have a look at that, you know, are out there for them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca. We are going to need to finish the session. We could go on for hours. I want to say thank you to all of the panelists that have come and shared all of this information. And like I said, and have been honest about what they're doing and what more can be done. Thank you to all the classrooms who have joined live and asked those questions and been pushing to get more information. If you guys are watching this recording or have watched this recording, thank you so much for watching it. Get yourselves on the Bucks Skill Hub as well, so that you can get in touch with these companies. If you've got more questions or you've got more curiosity about how to join these industries and make a difference, get in touch with them. Use that hub. That hub is there. Get yourselves on it and learn more. And we've heard all across all these industries, there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work is being done, and there's some great options and opportunities for your futures that are different to what exists now. New opportunities. I think I've heard that a mechanic for electric car or electric vehicles is going to be a big one, and other things as well, how the workplace is changing. We've had some great questions. We've had some really good questions, really good information. Keep doing everything that you guys are doing, being inquisitive and asking and pushing the boundaries, and go and get yourselves into these industries and help make a difference for the future. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for coming along. Really, really appreciate it. Go and check out the Skills Hub and keep doing all the good work that we're doing. Thank you.